I never believed in ghosts. Not really. Not as a historian. My job had always been to separate folklore from fact, myth from memory. I catalogued the past with a scalpel, not a crucifix. So when I inherited the Whittemore house in rural Dorset, a sprawling 18th century Georgian relic with ivy-choked windows and walls stained by time, I thought nothing of the warnings etched into its legend. The locals spoke in hushed tones about the house. They called it the Archivist's curse. Apparently, every historian who'd lived there before me had either gone mad or vanished. I thought that was quaint. That was before the scratching began.
The house groaned like an old man settling into death. Floorboards shifted even when no one stepped on them. The wind whistled through sealed windows. Cold drafts brushed the back of my neck, even in locked rooms. But old houses breathe, I told myself. The noises meant nothing. I spent my days combing through dusty crates of records, books, and letters, some dating back to the 1700s. The house's previous owner, Professor Elric Delaney, had vanished in 1986. They found his notes scattered around the drawing room, each scribbled with nonsensical phrases and Latin chants that seemed to spiral into gibberish. The last legible line read, "It does not haunt the house. It is the house." I should have left then. It was around 3:12 a.m. I remember the exact time, because the grandfather clock in the hallway struck 13. Not 12, 13. I laughed it off until I heard something drag across the floor above me, a long, deliberate scrape, like furniture being pushed. I lived alone. The attic. I hadn't opened the attic yet. Delaney's journal hinted at something sealed up there, something older than the house. A mistake, he called it. I couldn't resist. The stairs moaned as I climbed. Each step felt heavier than the last. When I reached the attic door, the air turned wrong. Not cold, thick, like I was breathing someone else's breath. It was locked. No key fit it, but the next morning, the door was open. Things stopped trying to hide. The shadows moved, even when no lights were on. My reflection would linger a heartbeat too long in mirrors. Books flew from shelves in the middle of the night, but never hit the ground. They'd just vanish. Once, I awoke to find every page of Delaney's journal pinned to the ceiling above my bed, ink bleeding like open wounds. Sleep became a foreign concept. The worst was the scratching, always behind the walls, sometimes beneath the floor, closer, louder, hungrier, and the whispering. At first it sounded like the wind, then like words in an old dialect, Gaelic maybe, Latin. Finally, it began using my name. Silver, you don't belong here.
I started documenting everything. Voice recorders, cameras, notes, but they'd all wipe themselves clean by morning. No matter what I did, there was never any proof. Just the weight in my chest, the smell of rot in the air, the taste of soil on my tongue when I woke up with dirt under my fingernails. I stopped going upstairs. The attic door stayed open now. Something up there waited. It didn't show itself.
It didn't need to. Its presence was enough to unravel me slowly. I'd catch glimpses, faint outlines pressed against the glass, dark figures standing at the end of hallways. Sometimes, in the silence, I'd hear bones snapping. Not human ones, bigger. I reached out to the church. I didn't think they'd believe me. I barely believed myself. But a reply came from Father Marek within 48 hours. He said he'd dealt with the house before, that he had tried to warn Delaney, that I must not, under any circumstance, enter the attic again. Too late. I don't remember unlocking the door. I don't remember walking up the stairs. I remember only the sound, a low chant vibrating in the marrow of my bones. It wasn't in any language I'd ever studied. The attic was no longer an attic. It was alive. The walls pulsed like breathing flesh. There were symbols etched into the beams, bleeding fresh blood. A single chair sat in the center, facing the far wall, where a mirror hung. Only it didn't show my reflection. It showed him, Professor Delaney. His skin was pale and stretched. His eyes were pits. His mouth moved silently, then widened in a smile far too large for his face. His voice was inside my skull, screaming, "It never left! It never left!" That's when the mirror shattered, not outward, but inward, like it had become a window, and something had finally broken through. I fell. I don't know how long I lay there. Hours, days. I awoke to the sound of hymns, real ones, Latin prayers, salt scattered in a circle around me, holy water burning into my skin like acid. Father Marek stood above me, sweat pouring down his face, holding a crucifix with trembling hands. "You opened the gate," he whispered. "It took Delaney. It nearly took you." Father Marek stayed for 3 days. He refused to sleep in the house, said it was not just haunted, it was infested. A gateway, a wound in the fabric between this world and something far older, far crueler, something that remembers. He walked the halls reciting verses from the book of Revelation. He anointed the floors, boarded the attic, and buried something wrapped in cloth deep in the garden. He never told me what it was. On the 3rd night, the house screamed. Windows shattered, doors slammed, blood oozed from the walls. The attic caught fire, but there was no smoke, just light, blinding, white, and full of shapes that hurt to look at. And then, silence. I moved out the next morning, left everything behind. The journals, the recordings, my research, even the house keys. I placed them on the porch and walked away. I never looked back. But some nights, when I stay up too late, when the world feels too still, I swear I hear that scratching again, like it's followed me, like I never really left. The church has since sealed the Whitmore house. Officially, it's condemned due to structural damage, but Father Marek still checks on it every full moon, just to be sure.
He says there are places where history doesn't just linger, it feeds. That the past isn't dead, it's just waiting, and it's always hungry.
Subscribe to be the first to get a notification when the next video drops, and hit the like button for more tales. Thank you.